Hello, once again, alumni, fans, and friends of Georgia Tech Lacrosse everywhere. I'm Nick Lizzo here today in the Alumni Alley with Bryant Jarrell, class of 2004. Hello, Bryant.
How's it going, Nick?
Pretty darn good. Let me introduce you to everybody. Bryant was a defenseman during what we call the Band of Brothers era, which was from 2000 to 2010, and he's a team leader for that group. He was part of one of our first nationally recognized teams, and he's a member of the Georgia Tech Lacrosse Hall of Fame, inducted into the inaugural class. Um, Brian, you remember that team achieved a lot of firsts. What was it like to be a member of that team?
Uh, it's tough being in a transition type team where we are changing faces of the team and how we presented on the national spectrum. Although there were great teams before us, as you well know, but I mean, it was just at a point where we had to modernize some things. So there's some hard lessons learned, tough learning experiences, and but very rewarding in the end. Even though you think back, it's like, man, you lost your last game, and you were in a third place consolation game. That was it. And it's like, but then getting to watch the team, win the league the next year, like you saw the payoff where it's like, you needed to be on the field for it, but it's like you felt really good about it. It was like, you know what, that was awesome. And I got some of the, I mean, there's still some of my best friends in life. I mean, we're talking today, just on the group chat, I was verifying what year some people's were, because back then, I don't know about now, but I guess there's plenty with COVID, a lot of guys going 6 years, but back then we had some seventh and eighth year wonders. And I was like, who was in whose class? Who was... Plus we're
Yeah,
getting old.
I think I can vouch for my team. We had a couple of guys that were definitely on the 5 year plan. Not really had nothing to do with lacrosse, but had to do with getting getting the money together or their grades together to get through school.
Usually
So
grades for us. The
yeah,
team,
yeah.
the team GPA now is daunting.
And then you look at the kids. Now you look at kids nowadays, and they're all straight A. It's like amazing. It's amazing. Like I like to think that well, in fact, like me and my group of guys, like we're from the we went to school in the '80s, and we say, geez, we couldn't even get into school nowadays. So thank heavens, we went when we went. But Brian, so are there any particular games or even like specific plays that you remember that come to mind, like when you think of your Georgia Tech lacrosse experience?
You want me to work chronologically? Yeah.
Sure.
Games. So Florida State, my freshman year, this is a bad memory, but a learning experience on not getting cocky early. I scored one of my 2 goals that year. I actually scored before. Odd to think of. But anyway, I surfed my stick across the half line, and Ken almost killed me. And we had just gone up like 5-0, 5-1 on Florida State at Florida State, and it's like we're killing them. And then we lost like 10-9 or 11-10. It was, oh yeah, yeah. So never did that again, or ever underappreciated a lead again. I think was the big learning experience there. But let me think. After that, the next big one, probably Georgia, my sophomore year, another tough one. Like I said before, learning experience and hard lessons learned to really good aftertaste. Georgia, my sophomore year, we lost for the second time in a row. And we'd gotten some good recruits in that year. Bob was out hurt. So it was just like, it was tough. And it was like, I have had it with this. I was a captain as a sophomore, and I took it as a personal responsibility along with the other guys in team leadership positions and guys my year. We're like, we're done losing to these guys. This ain't happening anymore. And we're gonna make this team's gonna be better. And that was the beginning of turning the corner. And it was a tough junior year getting around it. But by senior year we got there. So next notable game would definitely be junior year. You will notice at the Georgia games, there's a small section of Georgia Tech alumni that cheer for Georgia's first goal. Hopefully we're up 5-1 when they score it, but there is a section that will cheer every time because it preserves us as the only team to ever shut them out 15-0.
Wow.
We
Wow.
mauled them. Yeah, our goalie
Wow.
showed up. Yeah, Wojo showed up about 5 minutes prior to game time and pitched a shutout. Most unreal goalie performance I've ever seen in my life.
Now, who was that goalie?
Mike Wojtaszek. We called him Wojo.
Okay.
He was incredible. He's from Calvert Hall, just sick goalie, sick lacrosse IQ and player. Maniac team. He's, goalies all have a screw loose, so it's but great guy. Definitely was one of the main ones welcoming me to the team when I got in there freshman year. But that shutout to end the year, junior year, before we went off to SCLCs was like, that was just incredible. And we knew, like, man, we can stomp some people now and start turn the corner and be one of the better teams in this league. And then from there you get to senior year, where we really kind of realized we weren't this middling team anymore when we actually hung with Colorado for the first half. And Colorado was by and large, like, that was when they were on like a 3-year run of national championships. They had this goalie that was an absolute wall. And I figured if we were down 3-2 or up 3-2 at half, but we kind of looked at each other like, whoa, how did we do this? And while we lost, because a war of attrition, we got pummeled. Then that turned into beating Auburn at Auburn. That was big. And then beating Virginia Tech on our senior night. That was huge, because Virginia Tech had always just treated us like a second-class citizen as far as lacrosse went. And we beat the breath out of them on our field 14-4, like just absolutely hammered them. So otherwise, and at that point, it was kind of like the culmination, right? Senior year, wrapping it up, and the brotherhood was well in place. We were a very tight team. So the other notable games for me, and guys may or may not know this, that just for me personally, that were big. We played Tennessee and Connecticut Friday and Sunday, a weekend, my senior in 2003, and my grandmother died that week. So we played Tennessee Friday night, and I got in my truck at the game and basically drove to Mid-State Tennessee, where most of my family's from, and just disappeared into the night. I probably beat the Tennessee bus to Chattanooga. Like, I was gone. Because I was super close with my mom's mom. Buried her on Saturday, and Sunday morning woke up and I was just kind of out of it around at our home in Tennessee. And my dad walked in, who was kind of the guy who had instilled in me all this, that sports are important, athletics are important, they make you a better person. I'm sitting there just hanging out with my sister, and he walks in, he's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Oh, just hanging out, having breakfast, I guess." He's like, "Don't you got a game this morning? Or like, don't you got a game today?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, do you think she'd want you sitting here, or do you think she'd want you playing?" I was like, "Oh." Do the stuff in the car. I got there maybe 20 minutes before game time. Nobody knew they didn't think I was coming back. My roommates, I hadn't been there the night prior, so my roommates totally didn't think, Brady and Brent didn't think I was coming back. I showed up at the game, and everybody was super excited, and it was just like this. That was my my extended family at that point, and had been, but that was like just a moment for me that I'll always remember, how everybody received me when I showed up to the field that day against UConn.
Wow,
And it was a great game. We beat up on UConn. They thought they were coming down south to school some people in lacrosse. That's where 12 Sucks started. We'll get to that story later, though.
Well, that's a very touching story.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, there's lots lot to unpack there, but certainly.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, Tech, the team as your family. Certainly your dad recognizing, that's what your grandmother would have wanted. Is kind of like, is very, very moving. But
he knew what it meant to my life and my survivability at Georgia Tech. He knew what the team meant to me. So
yeah. Well, that's so. Tell us a little bit more, because it's obvious that this, you guys are the band of brothers, and it's also obvious that you have a very, very strong connection with that team. So tell us more about your teammates, and tell us a little about them. Tell us about the relationship you have with those.
Man, guys ahead of me. So I had a big brother, Carson, who took great care of me. He had two roommates, Wojo, who we previously mentioned, and Jason Schloer, who wound up only playing a couple years. He had to graduate early and move and get on with life. They were great guys. Greg Moody. The one guy I regret never being able to find, Greg Moody. We haven't found him. He's out there somewhere. He was a long stick midi for us. These guys were like tough, just tough as nails, salt of the earth, heart and soul for lacrosse dudes that played because they loved playing still. And it was like, I'm so glad I get to play a college sport, and it's not a job. I thought I was going to be all broken up about not getting to play football in college, honestly, coming out of high school, because that was my main sport.
Mhm.
Lacrosse had always just been an afterthought. And then I show up at Tech and I meet football players who are like, it's a job, man, just paying my school, and then I meet the lacrosse team and they're all like, dudes who all hang out together, and then, I wind up with Brady and Brent, my roommates. Me and Brady have like chased each other through life. Well, I chased him is more like it. He went to civil engineering. And I followed him out of aerospace because aerospace had nothing to do with flying airplanes. We both became pilots in the military. Both wound up at Delta Airlines. It's nuts. We're both New York based now. We see each other up there occasionally. Me and Brady and Brent are still very close to this day. We roomed together 2.5, 3 years, depending on which one you're talking about. Brady was the more academically inclined, so he finished on time. or 4.5. We took 5. Otherwise, my class, we had Joe Barato, who is the funniest human being I've ever met in my life. It's this cast of characters. Ramon and Jimmy were older, but they wound up graduating with me, I think. Ramon Frock and Jimmy Pilata, good dudes, just more heart and soul of the team type guy, especially Ramon. That guy, he cries more than anybody. I hope that gets on the recording.
I'm sure you got a
and, then,
chance about
and of course, as I moved junior, senior year, I became like big brother a little bit. I never gotten to be a big brother. I always wanted to be one. Will and Bob followed me the next year. They were kind of big recruits. Gary came in that year as well. Gary Bridges, who turned out to be just a sick attackman. I hated guarding that guy in practice. I think Craig Cronenthal is his real name. We call him Little Ed. Nothing to do with Ed Bernier, but also a good guy who recruited me. TJ, I still can't figure out if TJ was that year or the freshman class that came in when I was a senior. He's so young. The kid's 30 forever. He never ages. TJ Lozier, he's a really good dude. That dude literally gave me the shirt off his back. Like last game of the year, or second to last. I guess it was that night game after Virginia Tech. Like we're leaving the game and, changing out, everybody's going to their cars to get out. And I don't have anything but the sweaty undershirt I'd had on all game. I have no other shirt with me. And he literally gave me his Take It Joe shirt. We had these shirts made that said Take It Joe on the back because that was our big pregame chants. And literally gave me the shirt off his back and grabbed another shirt off his bag. Unreal. These are the kind of dudes I've played with. And then
so you stay in touch with most of these guys?
Yeah, all those guys I just talked about, I could text today. Craig Cronenthal will be harder to get a hold of sometimes. And like I said, Greg Moody we never found. But yeah, them and my little brothers, Alex Rees and Rob Jaquette. Of course, we had Gozer, who we referred to, or Mike Algozer, who we referred to as Jesus with a long pole. And that last class that came in. Rookie Rob Jaquette, though. We all know him. He's a ringleader of this circus of alumni now. But those are the people. Colin Wallace, God, how can I forget that kid? Colin was great. He was an emotional player. I loved having him on my team. And of course Justin Gomes, who's like best man at my wedding, still close to this day. Him and Colin were the two people I did not want to see in practice. Ground ball drills.
So Bryant.
Yeah, sorry, I derailed.
So paint the picture for me. You walk on campus. You're a freshman, and what was your first? When were you first introduced to this bunch of guys? And what was your first impression, if you recall? Like when you first got out there and walked on.
They were so fun. They were like that. You showed up at Georgia Tech and you did rush week, and you kind of felt like you're being forced into a lot of this stuff to a degree, and you're like, well, only cool people I've met, are all Greek. I guess I got to do that. But then you met these on Friday night, which was fall ball back then. Which is Friday evenings, like 5 to 7. We'd go out and play almost like a game of pickup lacrosse. We'd run some drills and stuff, but I don't want to discredit Ken by saying we didn't do a whole lot. We did though. We kept our sticks warm, and then a lot of guys would make plans to go out. Like, hey, what are you doing? All right, we'll see you there. So, do this, do that. This is what we're doing. Everyone's welcome to come over, kind of thing. We got this going on. And it was this media impression, like, oh my God, I got this group. I got people to hang out with, and this is how I've always developed a group to hang out with for the most part was sports.
Yeah.
those were always my dudes, for the most part. I mean, I have a couple really good friends outside of sports, obviously, as well, but yeah, they were so fun. I mean, Brandon Buckberg and Karsten and the older guys were just hilarious. And they already had guys that pick at each other in the upper classes. Like we're just looking at each other, figuring out like, okay, who's going to take the first shot and start talking trash, And it was great, man. I loved it. I loved those Friday evenings.
Now,
Yeah,
how do they compare?
just
So Friday evenings, right? Like, how do
yeah.
they compare with
Oh,
the?
I mean, just compared to my senior year, they were just having fun.
Yeah.
See, by senior year, we had Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was a full up practice, and it was get after it practice because fall ball. You got time to heal. Go, run. Yeah.
So, Brian, how did it compare? How does the lacrosse? How did that like complement, or how did it work with your academics at Georgia Tech? Because let's face it, Tech's a tough school.
that it no conflict because it was Friday night and you had all weekend to get everything done, so you could finally just like break loose and just forget about stuff. And that's part of why I often say the lacrosse team saved my life and kept me at Tech is stuff like those Friday nights where it's just like a release. I got to do something athletic, which had been like my outlet my entire life at that point to vent off frustrations and difficulty in life. Good bunch of dudes. Like, I don't know how else to put, like, this is how much I liked it. I would walk home, and not a lot of people know this, except for people that were waiting on me. I'd walk across campus from Sack Fields back to East Camp, the old East Campus, like Glen, where the stadium is.
Sure.
And I walked by the Campanile. I would stop at the Campanile. It was dark out almost. And I would just lay down and like half fall asleep
Huh.
and just lay there and just enjoy being tired from running and playing the game and being with good dudes before I went home and faced this onslaught of where are you? You got to get to the band party and you got to do this, you got to do that. It was just like this moment of just calm. And we didn't have cell phones. No one could text me. I just disappeared. And people always like, where have you been, man? It's like going on 9 o'clock. And I still got a shower. I just got home from practice, but it was like people that didn't know each other. They didn't know like I'd been out of practice for an hour and I'd just been sleeping at the Campanile. I was exhausted though. I didn't sleep well my first semester, my freshman year. It was a really rough first semester. Again, lacrosse saved my life and kept me in school.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, like, I'm going to tell you from it was for me at Tech, it definitely was very, very similarly, like, kind of like, that sanity, that restoration of sanity. You can't, it's hard to explain how, like, crashing into somebody else and, throwing that ball around was that, but that's what it was for me. And I think for most of the guys, who
Throwing
played,
the ball on the wall was just therapeutic. You go
yeah,
to the wall and just throw. Even when you didn't practice, just go out and just throw, or go
amen.
throw with one of the guys.
Yeah. If you got lacrosse in your blood, that's kind of like the way it is. That's just kind of it. It kind of stays that way.
I had to
So,
discover it.
so Brian, tell me a little bit about what you do now. You mentioned that you're a pilot with Delta. Tell us a little bit about how you got into that, after Tech, and
Yeah,
and a little
uh,
bit about your career.
yeah. Like I said, me and Brady went military. We were military pilots after he went Navy. I was Air Force. Went to pilot training. Became a C-130 pilot. Did my 10 years. And then the writing was on the wall in a lot of ways on it being a wise decision to punch out and go to the airlines. Um, I ended up doing almost a year at a regional express jet. That's kind of newly in existence under a totally different thing. But I did a year there and then got hired at Delta in the summer of 2017. I flew the MD 88 and 90, lovingly called the Mad Dog, my first 2 years there. And at the end of 2019, I switched over to the 767-400. I was never furloughed during COVID, but very, very close to it. I was at the last cut line was right above me where they were going to furlough if they'd had to, but all the, bailouts changed that. And then we recovered. And I came back to the 400 when I came back from that time off because they encouraged us to take like mill leave. I'm still in the reserves, so I had that option to get orders. I found a unit that needed me and said, hey, an old C-130 driver, I'm not qualified anymore, but I wear a flight suit if you want one. And someone hired me over in Germany. So it was tough being separated from my family because during COVID, international travel was tough, especially with little kids. Had a kid had just been born, so I basically was away from my family from the time my second born was 3 weeks old until he was a year and almost 3 months. And that's still tough with him, rebuilding that lost time, but that's what I do. Yeah. So I'm a 767 pilot flying mostly Western Europe and sometimes Sao Paulo, occasionally Los Angeles and Honolulu when it's in our bid pack. That's what I do now. So it's little 3-day trips out of New York, going to places like Madrid and Milan and Rome and London and Paris and whatnot. It's a good time.
So, in your career, is there ever been a time where you said, "Hey, I'm going to take one of my lessons learned from Georgia Tech lacrosse, and I'm going to put it to work here at Delta," or anything like that?
Delta, everything's come easy to be. No, Mad Dog training was tough. Nothing's as tough as getting your tail run off at lacrosse practice. I mean, we weren't too emotionally scarred with conditioning at Tech like I was in high school, but all in the same, the sports thing. It gave you just a mental toughness, to take the shots that life gives you, to take the losses to Georgia, to take the hook check rides or hook daily training rides and pilot training. So mostly in the Air Force, to just get up fighting, take your losses and get up fighting and come back and have a great senior year, like you got X amount of time to fix it and do better things. And that mentality, the teams I played for in high school were already pretty good. And not to say Georgia Tech wasn't, but we did go 4-12 my sophomore year. So I think something like it was rough. We took our beatings. But that's the fighting mentality to stay in it, and persevere with mental toughness about things.
So can we let's just segue from that. Let's segue into what is it that you might tell this year's team or one of year's team's recruits about, like, maybe how to approach how to approach Georgia Tech lacrosse, how to approach Georgia Tech in general. From
Show up
your
with show up with a great, everything's, spawns from a good attitude going in. If you have a good attitude about it, you'll work hard. You're working differently. You work hard and differently, not with a ulterior motive of any personal, it's all about me regard. It's a very much a blue collar team, and that's what's going to be respected to this day. Has been, will be, and I hope it always stays that way. Blue collar lacrosse. Although we got some dudes who play at a white collar level on the offense. But at the same time, a lot of those dudes who have made exceptional marks in Georgia Tech lacrosse at both offense and defense were hardworking dudes. They weren't just naturally awesome. They improved a lot from high school. There's a transition from high school to the college game. Even playing club lacrosse, it's not just Division I, Division III, Division II. This club league that you're about to go play in has some dudes that flunked out of Division I schools that are playing for Chapman and those kind of guys. So don't think you're just going to come in and run the show. You like come in with a good attitude, play hard, play tough, be tough mentally and physically. And that just resonates big time in this program. And they will find you a way to get on the field.
Bryant, I'll tell you what, we're running out of time here. I could not be more thrilled to have had you here, like on our program. Once again, this is Nick Luzzo. I'm here with Bryant Jarrell. This is Alumni Alley, and I just want to say, on behalf of the lacrosse program, thanks for what you do. You're a team lead, and we'll certainly be looking to hear more from you in the future. And any closing remarks?
Love doing it. Go Tech.
All right. Go Jackets.
See ya.